Well, it's been a crazy topsy-turvy world in the world of head coaches this offseason for sure. We'll dive into a lot of that, but also as it relates to assistant coaches as well. One of the top defensive minds in all of college football is headed to the SEC. Former Penn State defensive coordinator Jim Knowles is headed to the Tennessee Volunteers. And of course, Tennessee had a really rough season on defense and now bring in one of the game's great minds. Welcome into Southeast Sports Plus. I'm Gerhard Mathangani, joined by Patrick Walsh. And Patrick, this is another instance here where you find a coach that sees a flaw in his team's game, and you see an opportunity for a guy that has such not only a great background, but also a championship background as it relates to what he's been able to win there at Ohio State as the defensive coordinator, now going to Rocky Top. This could be huge for Tennessee moving forward.
Well, I think it's no secret that if Tennessee had a somewhat middle-of-the-pack defense, then they would have made the college football playoff this year with how explosive that offense was under Joey Aguilar and the way he lit up the field there with Chris Brazzell as well. But, I mean, you knew there were changes that had to be made on the defensive front after such a season like that where it was, okay, we're going into the year, it was, all right, what is this Tennessee defense going to look like? Because that kind of helped them to the playoff last year. It wasn't so much Nico Malieva carrying Tennessee to the playoff. It was almost the defense was kind of picking up the slack in the pass game there. But this one, some of the other hires I like. This one I really don't know about. Because when you look at where Penn State was this year on defense, that was a major problem for the Nittany Lions. Obviously, when you lose Drew Aller, that doesn't help by any means. And then you fired James Franklin, which, I mean, good job. You hired Matt Campbell. I think that's probably the best. I personally wasn't expecting them to hire Matt Campbell.
Me too, considering how many times he's passed up jobs.
Exactly. But the thing is, you look at the defensive stats here. They gave up almost 23 points per game. That was 43rd in FBS, 349 yards allowed per game. But the big thing there at the bottom, I mean, they were basically letting once every 2 third downs, they were just letting them convert.
Right.
I mean, you don't know what you're going to get. Now, is this personnel that was the problem at Penn State? Or was it Jim Knowles? You know, maybe he doesn't really have it anymore. I just don't know because it's been so soon since the national championship.
Well, is there anything that you could take away from, because I kind of almost look at Penn State in a vacuum where it almost felt like what the Philadelphia Eagles are right now. It just felt like a wonky team from the jump, and it felt like at the beginning of the season, James Franklin entered on the hot seat. Of course, they had that loss. And I just feel like maybe those things deteriorated all at the same time. And maybe the real Jim Knowles lies with what we saw at Ohio State the year before, and being able to take that defense and win a national championship.
Well, I will say this. The defense did get better to end the year, and I definitely think that helps him be able to land this job. But he was fired from Penn State, and I think that with Tennessee hiring him, he was owed a $7 million buyout, so it's just another ridiculous. But I'm saying that's ridiculous because he's not even a head coach, and he was getting $7 million to be fired by Penn State. But you look at the 3-game stretch that basically spelled the end for Penn State. The close loss in overtime to Oregon, the inexcusable, unexplainable loss to UCLA, and then the loss to Northwestern. That was pretty much the hole in the camel's back there. 3 touchdown favorites in both the last 2 games for sure, and then obviously the letdown against the upper crust of the Big Ten, where I do find it, if I'm a Vols fan, where I find some comfort is that Jim Knowles was essentially, I know Ryan Day and Jim Knowles, obviously Ryan Day is the head coach, but if you're looking back to his Ohio State days, it looked like Ryan Day just kind of gave the defense to Jim Knowles, and he let it go. And obviously that defense has been really good because Matt Patricia has walked right in and orchestrated a great defense there as well. So we'll find out if the Ohio State was more personnel too. I mean, it definitely helps when you have Caleb Downs.
Yes, on your team. For sure. They're on the opposite side. So we'll find that out. But it does feel to me like that what Josh Heupel can do is just hand this thing over. Just hand it over to Jim Knowles and let him go. And I know that Tennessee had some issues as it relates to the to injuries because, I mean, both their corners were injured, I believe, in the first maybe 5-6 weeks of the season. It just felt like the defense really could never get in its right, in a rightful spot. I had to go back to pull up his resume because I did not know if he had ties to the SEC outside of this opening here at Tennessee. Turns out he did have a year as the linebackers coach at Ole Miss back in 2003. So it's been, 2 decades.
Yeah, it's been a minute
since he has been in the league. That's another thing is that I'll look out for is that style of defense. Does it also work in this league as it does there in the Big Ten? Obviously, they won national championship, so I mean it's still effective. But how much more effective against these offenses?
Yeah, and I just wonder because, as you mentioned, Ohio State, it feels like they haven't skipped a beat. Bringing in Matt Patricia, which, I mean, I think Matt Patricia is one of those guys where he's a great coordinator, just a terrible head coach. I mean, we saw it in the NFL. Yeah. His stint with the Lions didn't really go that well, but, I mean, put the Lions through a little bit of pain just so you could get Dan Campbell down the line. So I guess that worked out just fine for them. But you look at this year, and I do, going back to what I was saying earlier, Penn State did have some problems like Tennessee with escaping the injury bug. I mean, it was not helpful to them at all this year. And I think that it was just the perfect storm of events when you combine the 3-game losing streak, you combine the injuries, you combine all of the offensive miscues, so to speak. And it was just the perfect storm for James Franklin to get fired. And I had a feeling, I did have a feeling that once Franklin was fired, that Jim Knowles was going to go somewhere else. Right. Because, I mean, I didn't really expect Matt Campbell to retain him. I think Matt Campbell's going to bring in some of his own guys. I wouldn't be surprised if the Iowa State defensive coordinator follows him to Happy Valley. But, I mean, when you look at the defense last year for this year for Tennessee, goodness. I mean, some of those numbers are just shocking. Almost 30 points allowed per game. That's not good. But the one, again, at the bottom is over 250 passing yards allowed per game, 119th in FBS. I mean, like, you just look at that, and I don't have the offensive stats, but if you were to compare them, you just got to be shaking your head. Because, I mean, even with the defense that Penn State had this year, you're still in the playoff.
You're in the playoff, exactly. Yeah, you don't lose a handful of games. Yeah. And some of the games that you do lose, like the Georgia game, I don't think the Georgia game is the same shootout that it was. No. If you have even a comparable, even just a remotely good defense. If you were to, I think Auburn and Tennessee, they both wear a shade of orange. Yeah. I think if Auburn's defense was on Tennessee and Tennessee's offense was in Auburn, you have a championship team on both sides. It's just. It's crazy to me how sometimes unbalanced, uneasy teams can be. I had to pull up their schedule just because last year, obviously, it was just basically last year's the 2025 schedule was the 2024 schedule in reverse. Yes. And so now it's the first time this upcoming season where we have the shift in the SEC schedule. I just want your just immediate thought reaction. I'll just list you the SEC games they'll play. And Jim
immediate
Knowles
reaction on
what Tennessee's schedule, the teams that the offenses that Jim Knowles will have to schedule against in the SEC now that we're going under a different format, 9-team schedule, and not just the flip of last year. Okay, so I don't want to do the non-conference games. We'll just start with the SEC games at Arkansas.
That's a win.
Okay, at South Carolina. Let's assume the quarterbacks that can stay will stay.
That's still a win.
Okay.
Sorry, Shane Beamer. I just don't.
So really, Shane Beamer and Lenoris Morris, just get him out of here. Alabama, but at home, and Neyland.
Yeah, because I don't expect Ty Simpson to be the quarterback next year.
Let's say it's like Keelan Russell, maybe.
I would say maybe Austin Mack over.
Yeah, maybe
Keelan.
Maybe even Mack. Yeah.
Still, I think Tennessee makes his night not fun.
Right. Auburn at Neyland. Okay, that's again once either Ashton Daniels or maybe Deuce Knight or whoever they bring in from the board.
Yeah, I still think they win that game.
Yeah. Kentucky at home.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So that's 3 straight wins.
As much we're going to go to Will. We're going to talk about Will Stein in the next segment. I like him, but I think the defense shuts whatever.
Then it's LSU, whoever they'll bring in at quarterback.
Oh boy,
with Lane.
It might be Bryce Underwood. Maybe we'll get to Michigan in the second hour of today's show.
Yeah,
but I think LSU.
Lane
Kiffin's going to outduel Jim Knowles.
Yes, and then after that, this is the reason why I want to do this. Is this stretch of games?
Oh boy,
LSU, Then it's Arch Manning and Steve Sarkisian. That game at home at Neyland Stadium.
Arch has played too many games. I think Texas comes out in that one.
All right. Then it's Texas A&M. Let's assume that's Marcel Reed.
Texas A&M's losing. I mean, I just don't have any. Mike Elko just lost everyone. All of his coordinators.
All right.
Both of his coordinators are now gone.
Yeah. and then to end the year, of course, against Vandy.
Oh, boy.
Assuming Diego Pavia's finally gone. Actually, he will be gone. He's going to the Senior Bowl.
I think Vanderbilt actually wins because by then Jared Curtis will technically be a sophomore.
Right. So
my guess is he comes in and starts right away. There's no way.
The game I was just playing in my head, and this is the reason why I wanted to play it with you, is just the number of good quarterbacks they'll play next season. Potentially, let's just say everybody stays. Potentially,
that's a brutal schedule.
Could be Taylon Green. It could be Lenore Sellers. Then whoever runs the quarterback at Alabama, you mentioned it, maybe Mack or Keelan Russell. And then for Auburn, it could be Deuce Knight. For Kentucky, I'm not sure. Then it's LSU and Lane Kiffin's offense. Then it's Steve Sarkisian offense with
Arch.
Arch.
Boy.
Then it's Texas A&M, and then maybe the best freshman quarterback in the country. I mean,
Jared Curtis.
This could be a murderer's row of offenses that he has to face coming up in year one.
I mean, you talked about he's got to revamp the defense. We literally talked about Chris Brazzell, and this is just in. Pete Thamel's reporting that he's declaring for the draft. So they're going to have to find a replacement for their number one wide receiver.
Right.
More than likely, unless Diego Pavia wins the lawsuit, is going to have to find a new quarterback.
Right.
Maybe Jake Merklinger will step up.
Yeah.
I don't know, but
yeah.
I would expect this Tennessee team to look completely different next year. I believe they did sign a pretty decent 2026 class.
Yeah.
But it's that transfer portal that's going to be the big thing for them.
Yep. And I trust Josh Heupel, so we'll see how it goes. We played that game saying that everybody stays the same. Obviously, things won't stay the same mainly because
they will never.
Mainly because the portal that will open up.
We will
in
never
a few
see.
weeks.
We will never see a season or an off season like last season where all those coaches stayed. Ever again.
No.
And I mean, I felt like that was just this year was just a carryover effect from nothing happening last year.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. The transfer portal will open up in here in just a couple of weeks, and Josh Heupel, the Tennessee head coach, talked about that transfer portal.
You know, it's different this cycle, just the timing of the portal in general. I think it's a positive. For us, we'll look at what we've signed in this class, what we have coming back, and then attack the portal. How we continue to grow our roster to be ready to go compete and win a championship. I wouldn't say anything as of right now, but certainly here over the coming days and weeks, we will look hard at that. We're finishing up exit interviews with our current players now, and then be ready to attack that when it comes here.